There is an ache you can't quite name. You try to write a journal. You even search for cinematic videos on YouTube. You know the ones. Slow pans over beautiful journals and perfect handwriting, melancholy piano, some voiceover whispering about morning routines and self-love. In the end, you couldn't write more than a few lines, and now the journal sits on your desk, unopened, collecting dust. You tried therapy, magnesium, more sunlight, less sugar. You even jumped on the cold plunge trend and just ended up with a cold. Nothing really changed. The ache was still there. That's the thing about depression. It doesn't always knock the wind out of you. Sometimes it just sits next to you while you try to rest on a Sunday morning. Quiet, familiar, heavy. It becomes part of the furniture, this ache. You stop noticing it until everything goes quiet. And that's when it returns. Not as a scream, but as a question. Does it have to be this way? Somewhere along that question, I stumbled across a man from 1930s Japan, a time when the country was marching to the war with China, and militarism had drowned out the soul. One man published a book called The Truth of Life. While the world hardened itself for battle, he wrote about light, about thoughts, about the strange possibility that we call reality might be an illusion made of fear. And his name was Masaharu Taniguchi, and he claimed something quietly radical. Depression is not a condition, it is a misunderstanding. Taniguchi believed that what we call reality is only one layer, a surface. What we see, war, illness, despair, brokenness, is the phenomenal world, but it's not the final truth. He called it a shadow, a projection of mistaken thought, not because pain isn't real, but because the way we see pain is often distorted. We stare at the surface of things and call it the whole. These aren't just thoughts, they are filters. Filters that color every conversation, every silence, every attempt at living. And here's where Taniguchi flipped the script. He said those filters aren't fixed. They're not you. They're learned, and they can be unlearned. He called the deeper layer the true image, the spiritual reality that exists beyond perception. It's not made of atoms, emotions, or outcomes. It's made of being, peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, worth that isn't measured by productivity, a wholeness that was never broken, just covered. Taniguchi wasn't offering comfort, he was offering vision. He believed that thought is not just internal commentary, it's participation. The mind is not a mirror, it is a projector. And the more you believe in fear, the more the world rearranges itself to give you something to fear. That's not magic, that's perception. He thought that positive thought isn't just a good habit, it is a spiritual act, not because it changes the world, but because it aligns you with what's already true. In 1930, Taniguchi founded Seicho-no-ie, a spiritual movement grounded in the belief that thought and reality are not separate, that you don't fight darkness, you turn on a light. You remember what's always been there, quietly waiting beneath the noise. Not something to achieve, something to return to. Taniguchi wrote over 400 books, not on how to get better, not on how to win, but on how to remember. Remember what's already whole. He didn't offer techniques, he offered vision. He blended Zen, Christian mysticism, New Thought, and Shinto, not to create a religion, but to build a path back to truth, that the world is not your enemy. It is not here to punish you, test you or break you. It reflects what you believe, but isn't bound to those beliefs. That suffering does not define you. It's an experience, a weather pattern, not a name, not a fate. And that peace is not a reward you earn by fixing yourself, not a prize at the end of some healing journey. It is your default setting. The silence beneath the noise, the stillness under every thought. You don't need to build it, you only need to stop covering it up. Maybe the question isn't how do I feel better? Maybe the real question is, what am I believing that isn't true? Because some of your suffering isn't coming from the world, or your childhood, or your brain chemistry. It is coming from an idea, a thought you inherited, rehearsed, and wrapped yourself in for so long that you mistook it for identity. A quiet story playing in the background, telling you who you are and what you are not allowed to become. But thoughts can change. They're not stone, they're weather. And when they do, reality does too. Not because the world transforms overnight, but because your vision does. Maybe you are not broken. Maybe you have just been tuned to the wrong frequency, chasing noise, mistaking it for meaning. Maybe the problem was never who you are, but how long you have been looking in the wrong direction. You keep searching for peace like it's missing, but what if peace isn't something you find? What if it's something that returns the moment you stop reaching for it? Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you have just forgotten how whole you already are. If this stirred something in you and you want to go deeper into the ideas of Masaharu Taniguchi, leave a comment. I'd love to explore more of his work in future episodes. And don't forget to subscribe. See you guys next time.